like what we can see outside. Like different kinds of object we can see, right? Which are of different sizes, different shapes, like chairs, cycles, books, toys. Can you tell what else you can see? Are you there and am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
So different types of materials like toys, stones, even different clothes, different foods, everything. If you consider, they will be of different colors, different sizes, different uses, and different shapes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that particular objects are of
Ma'am,
different
your
materials.
voice is stuck, so I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Ma'am, your voice is stuck, so I can't hear you properly.
Everybody is facing the issue.
No, ma'am, I can hear you clear.
Please check your network. So these objects
Okay.
around us are made up of different materials. Like example, suppose if we take a chair, table, bullock carts. So all these are made up of what material, students? These are made up of wood. Okay. Next, can you tell me the few objects which are made up of paper? Like books, notebook,
Yes.
newspapers, etc. Next, plastic, cotton, leather, all these we can find, right? So whatever the materials we can see, apart from wood, paper, leather, plastic, can you tell few? Cotton, all these are the different materials. In our daily life, we will come across the different things and different objects which are made of different materials, isn't it?
Ma'am?
Hmm?
Ma'am, I just joined now. Can you say what you discussed?
Yeah, just now I started about materials. So
Okay.
the objects, how different materials are there, and these materials how we will use to make different objects like chairs, tables, bullock carts. They are in this we will find the material wood. Wood is used to prepare these, and with the help of paper we will make books, notebooks, newspapers, some toys, calendars, etc. Isn't it? Like leather is a material which is used to make shoes, belts, many items, handbags. Plastic is used to make many utensils. Cotton is used in clothing purpose, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we will see the properties of materials. So example, suppose, so what is the meaning of property? Like how it looks, or see, suppose in case of us, in case of human beings, we will tell behavior. So same thing, material also, it will have certain properties. So these are the very important from here. What are the properties of material we are going to discuss? Properties of materials. So the first property we can see, appearance. So simply by looking it, we can identify the material, what is present. So it is appearance. So in appearance, generally, if you see,
There are two kinds of stuff.
like wood is there. Wood differs from iron. Yes, wood is also a material. Iron is a material. So iron differs from gold, copper, aluminum. So every material, by simply seeing it by its appearance, we can easily identify it, right? So there is no similarity between the material. So you can easily differentiate them, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
So materials look different. Materials usually look different.
Ma'am, from appearance, we can see like appearance means look. There are two kinds of objects in that.
Yes, yes. So simply we will look it and we will differentiate it. So look different from each other. Isn't it? Simply, if iron and wood is shown to you, you can tell that it is wood and it is iron. Isn't it?
Because iron shines and wood doesn't shine.
Yeah. That we will discuss later. By the simple appearance we are telling. Like it looks different from other. Like wood is there, iron is there, aluminium, copper, etc. Okay. So they will have similarities as well, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
They will have similarities, but they look different in their appearance.
Yes, ma'am.
So we will see one activity here, which is from your textbook. So activity, with the help of activity, we will check the materials which are having luster. Okay, which have luster. So what is the meaning of luster? So aim here.
And can I say
Object with signs. Object with signs are known as
the objects which shine are called lustrous objects.
luster.
The objects
So
which
the property is called
shine are
luster. Like activity 1 is to show certain materials have luster. So some materials are given to us. In this, we have to tell which is luster. So the materials here are, first one is given small pieces of paper.
Ma'am, can you give one example? Small lustrous.
So I'll give some examples and from this you tell me, students. Next one, cardboard. Next, piece of wood. Let me write whole. Next, small strip of plastic. Next, sand, wires of copper and aluminium. Next, heavy, that's it. So these are given to us. Okay. So from this, we have to show with proof we have to show. As we are doing experiment, it is an activity. We have to show the observations as well. Among the 5, which are which show the property of luster. So for these, to prove that, what are the materials required? So materials required are whatever given. You take them. Along with that, we need a heavy scissor or metal cutter to cut the given ones, and sandpaper.
Ma'am, there's a process called rusting, ma'am.
Yes, the sandpaper is used. Sandpaper is the one which is the main material required here to test the presence of luster. So what we will do means, here we will cut whatever the sub materials are given to us, like 5 are given to us: paper, cardboard, wood, next strip of plastic, and copper and iron. Of all these, first what we will do, we will cut a piece of with the help of metal cutter. We took scissors and metal cutter, right? With the help of it, we will cut surface of each material. We'll cut a small piece from each one, and we will rub with this sandpaper. Okay, each piece of material is rubbed with sandpaper. So now if you observe the sandpaper, the one which is rubbed with a small piece of iron doesn't shine, and cardboard also doesn't shine, wood also doesn't shine, plastic doesn't shine, but wires of copper and aluminium sandpaper is shining.
Yes, ma'am.
So it indicates that from these, the materials of copper, aluminium are lustrous.
Okay, ma'am.
Got it? So first what we are doing in the
Yes, ma'am.
experiment? So method what we are doing, students, first we are cutting the given materials. Cut each of the material with whatever we are taking, with metal cutter or heavy scissor. Okay, then this is the first point. Now what we are doing, rub each of material with sandpaper. Material with sandpaper. Now observe the surface of sandpaper. Observe the surface of sandpaper. So with this, what we will notice, students? We will notice what we will notice?
Ma'am, when which material we rub that the surface shines, ma'am, that object is lustrous.
Yes. So we will notice that thin wires of copper, aluminium, sandpaper surface is shiny. Thin wires of copper, aluminium,
Will shine.
surface is aluminium, sand surface is shiny. Okay. So from this, what we can tell, what is the conclusion we got at last? Certain, whatever shining here are copper and aluminum. Copper and aluminum are nothing but metals. So this experiment, particular activity, it tells us, it concludes that copper and aluminum are the metals, and metals only shows lustrous property. Understood? Conclusion is certain materials like metals have luster. Clear? Everybody? So first property of material, what we have discussed, students, appearance. So in appearance, we have done an activity here. Through this activity, we have proved that metals have lustrous property. So second property of material here is hardness. So we will discuss here types of materials which shows hardness. Generally, if you press some materials with our hands, we will feel some are very hard to press, some are very easy to press, isn't it? So that particular pressing is nothing but called as compressible. Compressibility it is called. Okay. So we won't tell in the language of science that we are pressing. In chemistry, we will tell we are compressing. Okay, whenever you are compressing any material, we will feel some as hard and some are easy to compress. Okay, like example, Cotton is there, cotton or any sponge. If we press, it is very easy for us to compress it, right?
Ma'am,
Hmm?
ma'am, materials which can be compressed or scratched easily are called soft materials, and which
Yes.
are not compressed or not like scratched, they're called hard materials.
Hard materials. Like example, iron. If you take iron, it can't be compressed, right? Whereas
Ma'am.
sponge,
Example for
cotton.
soft is sponge.
Yes, sponge, cotton, everything these can be compressed. So hardness, materials which can be compressed or stretched easily also you can tell. Not scratch, it is stretched easily. Okay, materials which can be compressed. Stretch means if you pull it, it will stretch like a rubber band. Okay, which can be compressed or stretched easily or called soft materials. And the next point here is which are difficult to compress. Materials which are difficult to compress are called hard materials. And one thing, students, after after every class, I'll post the same notes in the form of PDF in group. Okay, you can note down there by downloading it. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Are called
ma'am.
hard materials. So for soft materials, what are the examples we can write, students? Examples like sponge. In case of hard materials, we can write iron, isn't it? So the second property we discussed is hardness. First property is appearance, second is hardness. Then next property is solubility. Solubility means dissolving. I think everybody have idea of dissolve. What is the meaning
Yes,
of
ma'am.
dissolve? Like sugar dissolves in water. So that dissolving
Yes,
we will call it as solubility. Sugar soluble in water. So we will see some how some materials how they are soluble. Like example, sugar is there, salt is there. When you mix
coffee powder.
what?
Coffee powder.
Yes, yes. So these will dissolve easily in water.
Vinegar.
Like some substance are there, like sand. If I mix sand in water, will it dissolve?
No.
No. If I mix chalk powder in water, will it dissolve?
No.
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 So based on these also we have classified the materials like based on the solubility. The substance which are soluble in water and substance which are insoluble in water. Yes.
Ma'am, you can say as the substances which dissolve and disappear in water are called soluble substances,
Yes.
and the substances which doesn't like that, you can say.
Yes. So solubility means what we can write, some substance or the substance which dissolve completely, substance which dissolve completely are called soluble substance. Some substance you can write instead of writing this, you can write some substance which dissolve, some substance dissolve completely. Like example, what students? Sugar and salt. Some substance dissolve completely in water. Example are sugar,
And salt.
etc. Next, some substance
which doesn't dissolve completely in water or doesn't dissolve in water are
Yes,
called insolubility substance.
which do not dissolve in water is called, like example, you can write sand,
Insoluble.
chalk powder.
Chalk powder, sawdust.
Yes. Here, this is solubility. Now here we will perform an activity to check the solubility of different substance. So now here activity of checking solubility. Like here in this activity, we are taking different substances. First one is what are the materials required to check? Here materials we are taking rack of test tubes. We are taking many test tubes here. Next, common salt. You have idea of common salt, right? Which we will use generally in our, which is tasting salt in the house. Okay. Sugar. Washing soda. Chalk powder. Sand. So we are taking this. Now, in this experiment, as we have taken many test tubes, so consider each test tube here. So we are considering different test tubes here, students. In the first test tube, we are adding salt. Okay. In the second test tube, we are adding sugar. In the third test tube, washing soda. In the fourth, chalk powder. In the fifth, sand. Now tell me in which case the particular added substance is dissolved.
Sugar,
Salt.
sugar, salt.
Washing soda will dissolve.
Sugar
Salt.
dissolves, common salt dissolves, and which dissolves?
I think washing soda.
Washing soda will dissolve, yes. Then what about sand?
Chalk powder and sand dissolves, but not completely. They will stay at the end, so it's called as
Settle down like a sediment.
Actually, sand won't dissolve, it will settle down in the water. Okay, then what about chalk powder? Chalk powder also won't dissolve, it will settle down.
But some of them, like some mud will go,
So that
it will change the
sand
color.
is different from the mud, right? Sand differs from the mud. So if you see the salt, sugar and washing soda is giving clear solutions, whereas the chalk powder and salt here in this, the materials are not getting dissolved. So these two are called as insoluble substance. And the remaining three are soluble substance. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in this, what we have done in this experiment, students, we have added solid substance, like salt is a solid, sugar is a solid, Washing soda is solid, right? Everything
Yes,
we have
ma'am.
added. Suppose if I add a liquid, then can we tell it as a soluble substance, insoluble substance?
Ma'am, liquids like oils, ma'am, they are insoluble, ma'am.
So
And
we
vinegar
want, in
also-
case of liquid dissolution, suppose if you are adding any liquid,
And that's
and
called miscible and immiscible.
yes, immiscible. These are the two terms we will use. Suppose we are adding vinegar, lemon
It
juice.
mixes, ma'am.
They will mix, right? So they will mix
Yes, ma'am.
completely with water, and that solution is called as
Miscible
miscible
liquids.
liquid. Because you can't, after mixing, you can't tell that whether it is a vinegar solution or a lemon, like you can't separate them simply. Okay, suppose if I pour oil in water, then what happens? Oil floats, right?
Yes, ma'am, like mustard oil, coconut oil, kerosene,
Yes,
they
yes,
won't
they will float on
dissolve in
water. They won't dissolve in water. Such solutions, that such liquids are called as immiscible liquids, because they are not.
Immiscible liquids.
Yes, yes. So example like oil. If I take oil, that liquid is called immiscible liquid. When we are considering on dissolution with water,
When it doesn't mix well with water.
yes, in water only. Clear? So till now, what are the properties we have discussed, students, of materials? First properties:
Hardness,
appearance,
soluble,
hardness,
insoluble,
solubility. Yes,
miscible.
yes. Next property is floating or sinking in water. Whether the particular object or material, whether it floats on water. We have discussed one thing, that is whether it is soluble or insoluble in water. The next thing is whether the object is floating on water or sinking in water.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, actually we say that the objects which are in lightweight and heavyweight, the heavyweight objects will sink, the lightweight will float, but there will be a like equation like density is equal to mass and volume. Mass means less density, so it floats,
Yes,
and
yes.
volume means more
Yes,
density,
yes,
it will
yes.
sink.
Correct. So that factor comes here. So we can take solubility also in mind while telling the floating. Suppose, see here, oil is there. Oil will float or not on water?
It will.
It will float, yes, because it is insoluble.
Because it's
not-
invisible liquids and it
Yes.
floats on the top, so it will be like that also.
Yes. If solid is not soluble, like example we have discussed, like sand. Sand actually it sinks, right? It sinks to the bottom. Then can you tell any like oil we have discussed? Oil, it floats. Sand will sink. Wood, what about wood?
It will sink.
Float. Wood will
Ma'am, a
float.
piece of wood will float, ma'am. A piece
Yes.
of wood.
Yes, yes. Then what about stone? A piece of
Ma'am,
stone,
it has
it will
volume
sink.
density.
Whatever the size of the stone, it will sink. Yes, metal also will sink.
Ma'am.
Yes. So the one of the property of materials is
How
floating
can-
and sinking property.
Ma'am, then how can we classify paper, ma'am? If we keep it in water, after sometime it will float, and after some time it will sink automatically.
Actually, here capillarity in higher classes you can study. Here water is getting dissolved in water, right?
Because the paper get wet and it
Yes.
become heavy, so it
Yes.
then sink.
Yes, yes. Due to capillary action, the paper, entire water enters to the total surface of the paper and it will sink instead of floating.
Okay, ma'am.
So the next property, fourth property is object may float.
Transparency. Transparency.
No, let me write. Object may float or sink in water. So what examples we discussed here, students? Examples like oil,
Ma'am, like coin,
piece of
tea.
wood, they
Oh, those are-
float on water. Okay, then stone, metal piece,
Ma'am,
they
coin, keys,
sink
they will
in
sink in
water.
water.
Yes. Okay, now again we are doing an activity. For every property we are doing an activity and we are making the conclusion. Here the activity, in this activity, what are the materials they took? One is stone, that too small stone. Whatever, small or big, it will sink, right? Next, small
Ma'am,
piece
actually,
of...
there's a difference, ma'am. There's a difference.
Okay, what is the difference?
Ma'am, actually, in a glass, you pour water, then you add a stone, ma'am, it will sink. But if you
Okay.
have like an aquarium glass and you pour water, you add a small stone, ma'am, it will float, ma'am.
Why it will float?
Really, ma'am, it will float. Because if it's
Okay.
like very tall, ma'am, like a rectangle, it will float.
So in the ocean or a sea, if you drop a small stone, then
Ma'am,
it is
not like
very
those,
big.
ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, not that, ma'am. Like
So it
the,
depends
like
on, in the
rectangle
aquarium,
tall ones.
it depends on the stone which you are adding, right? In the aquarium, how the stones will be? Actually, they are heavy, isn't it? They must sink. Let me try once this. Okay, and I'll get back to you on this. Next, a small piece of wood, a coin. Next, leaf. Fourth is leaf. Fifth, a brass screw. Sixth is a small piece of ice. Seventh is a glass bowl. Filled with water. Now, what the conclusion we can give here? Which will sink and which will float?
Ma'am, the small stone will sink, ma'am. Small piece of wood, it will float. A coin,
Okay.
it will sink. Leaf, it will float, ma'am. Brass screw also, it will sink, ma'am. I think it will sink.
Yes,
Brass.
screw also will sink.
Yes, ma'am. A small piece of ice, ma'am, it will float. Ice will float.
Yes, ice will float, correct?
A glass bowl filled with water, it will sink, ma'am.
Which one?
Ma'am, seventh one, glass bowl.
Glass bowl, already it is filled with water. It is heavy one. So obviously it will sink.
Sink.
So here small stone sink, piece of wood float, coin sink, leaf float, brass screw sink, small piece of ice, what you told? It will float. Obviously ice floats on water due to density difference. Next, a glass bowl filled with water also sink. Okay, we can repeat this activity by taking some more materials as well. Okay, so from this experiment, what we have concluded that some objects may float and some objects may sink in water. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So the next one is transparency.
Transparency.
So tomorrow you will be having test in this chapter. Okay?
Ma'am, the things what we discussed now, ma'am.
Yes, yes. So in this chapter.
And will you also give activities in the test?
See, activities are very easy, right? Only examples. So you
Okay.
will be getting MCQs questions. 1 minute, students. Next property is transparency.
Ma'am, can I?
Yes.
Ma'am, so the objects that we can see through completely are called transparent objects.
Yes.
The objects which we can see, through the
Only
objects
tell
which
me
we
about
can see
transparency,
are
not other one. Only transparent. So transparent means whenever you see, it is a substance, it is a material through which the things can be seen. Like example, glass is there. Through the glass, we can see the things, right? Water, air, some plastics. So these are the examples we can take for transparency. Those
We can also say that it's the object which the light passes through.
but you should keep like the objects which we can see through completely. Then only we can know it's transparent.
those materials through which things can be seen.
Ma'am, you should keep completely, ma'am. It will have a meaning like that.
Oh, okay.
Ma'am, because there are two more stuff, right? That's why if we keep completely, we'll understand.
So two more stuff like translucent, you mean?
Yes, ma'am. Opaque, translucent.
So in
For
translucent, there is only partially light passes. So we'll write, don't worry, those materials through which things can be seen. So if you're talking about light, you have to mention that point. Because completely incomplete, you can't tell about the things, right?
Ma'am, actually,
You can't
I'm
see
saying
half
that,
thing like it. Whatever you can see, that is the transparent through which things can be seen. Next, light passes
actually
completely through these materials. This what you have to mention exactly. Light passes.
Ma'am, that's also correct, ma'am. Light passes, but actually in transparent, the objects through which we can see completely, because we can see completely and clearly the object, but in translucent, we can only see half.
Completely differs from clearly. Both are different meanings. Complete and half, we can't do that, right? Clear we can mention.
Ma'am, but in translucent, we say partially because we can only see the shadow. We don't know who
Partially
it is,
light
like a
passes.
person.
Example, if I place my hand on a torch, then the light won't pass completely. Light passes partially. Then that property is called translucent property.
Translucent.
So light passes completely through these
Transparent.
materials. That is transparent. Like example, what we can write? Glass, air, etc. Water. Okay. And in this, we will come across opaque and translucent, right? So if light pass partially, light passes partially, and objects can be or cannot be seen clearly. Or no, it is known as translucent.
Ma'am, examples, oil paper.
Yes. A torch on hand. A palm, actually. Palm on torch.
Oil paper, butter paper.
Sorry?
Oil paper, butter paper, the examples of it, like
Yes. Next one is opaque. So in case of opaque, what is opaque, students?
the The objects through
There are
which we
some
cannot see.
materials through which we are not able to see, like light doesn't pass through them.
I'm like wood, steel,
Yes.
glass,
We cannot,
cardboard, blackboard. We
yes,
cannot see through them.
we cannot see it. Like example, wood, cardboard, etc.
Blackboard, steel, glass.
Yes. Clear?
Yes.
So this is also property of material. So till now, what are the properties we have discussed, students? Appearance,
Hardness,
hardness,
solubility,
yes,
solubility, visible, invisible, float, sink, transparency, translucent, and opaque.
Translucent and opaque.
yes, correct. So these are all the properties of material. In this, you will be having test on tomorrow. And the questions you'll be getting
keep
very, yes.
And can you keep a test, please?
So only 5 minutes left, right?
Yes, ma'am, you can keep a test. 5 minutes.
I'll ask some questions. So what's the use of test now in this particular time?
Like quiz, ma'am, like we can know how much we learned.
No time now. Can you tell few round shape objects?
Round shape objects. Ma'am, ball, orange.